All right, I want to introduce Sabyasachi Prabhu. Where is he? Hare Krishna. He's visiting from South Africa. He is a sannyas candidate and is disciple of Bhakti Charu Swami. So he preaches all over South Africa and New York City and some in Florida too. So we're really happy to have you here again. Hare Krishna. While he comes up, I will tell you who dressed the deities today.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. By development of the desire of the great sages to know, the ears, the power of hearing, the controlling deity of hearing, and the objects of hearing became manifested. The great sages desired to hear about the self. Please repeat. By development of the desire of the great sages to know, the ears, the power of hearing, the controlling deity of hearing, and the objects of hearing became manifested. The great sages desired to hear about the self. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, by advancement of knowledge, one should try to know about the Supreme Lord, the summum bonum of everything. Knowledge does not mean knowledge only of the laws of nature or physical knowledge, which are working by the direction of the Lord. The scientists are eager to hear about the physical laws working in material nature. They are eager to hear through the medium of radio and television about things taking place far away from them on other planets. But they should know that the power of hearing and the instruments for hearing were given to them by the Lord for hearing about the self or about the Lord. Unfortunately, the power of hearing is misused in hearing the vibrations of mundane affairs. The great sages were interested in hearing about the Lord through Vedic knowledge and nothing more. That is the beginning of oral reception of knowledge. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurud Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaite Kirim Yat Kripa Tamham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. By development of the desire of the great sages to know, the ears, the power of hearing, the controlling deity of hearing, and the objects of hearing became manifested. The great sages desired to hear about the self. Hare Krishna. First, I'd like to beg for the blessings of all the Vaishnavas gathered here, a lot of esteemed superiors, seniors, disciples of Srila Prabhupada, that if you may look kindly upon me, that I may try to serve by saying some words from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. The title of the chapter is very beautiful and is really a matter of fact statement. Some would say bordering Hare Krishna fanaticism. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Try asking the Baptists if that's true. They'd have a different idea. my own coming to Krishna consciousness story, as mundane as it may be, starts with seeing a poster on campus. The poster says Bhakti Yoga Society. The topic is a cure for all diseases. Something similar to this. We see it, we think these people might be onto something, or they may be also herbalists like we are. But the topic is very provoking, that you actually want to go and hear what exactly will they say, and what is this cure for all diseases. So such titles are meant to draw the living entity closer to hearing about such topics. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is particularly meant to be accepted through oral reception, so that one can uproot all their miseries. The Vedic motto is Save Sukhino Bhavantu. Let everyone become happy. So that's quite a tall order. How are you going to make everyone happy? You have to connect them to the reservoir of all happiness, the reservoir of all pleasure. And that reservoir of all happiness and pleasure is none other than Shri Krishna. And this Bhagavatam is saying Satyam Param Dhimahi. That personality, who is the reservoir of happiness and pleasure, he has to be meditated upon. Now, how do I meditate about any subject or any object without hearing of it, knowing of it, getting details of it? So the Bhagavatam is dedicated to offering us the subject matter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Samam Bonam. And so in this chapter, it begins with giving the 10 topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, there are so many, but they are all summarized within these 10 categories. Atra Saga Visagascha. First, the creation of all the elements by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Primary creation. Then followed by secondary creation, which is performed by our head of the Sampradaya, Brahmaji, puts together everything and arranges for the protection of the devotees, for putting the living beings wherever they need to be. Sthanam, Poshanam. So sthanam means the place of dwelling. So this whole universe is described, 14 planetary systems, different environments where you get different bodies and different grades of happiness and distress based on one's previous karma one is situated. So the accommodations have been provided. And then living being has to be protected by learning the science of God. So the science of God is what is missing in modern society. It is the gaping hole that is plaguing the so-called success of modern civilization. There's no clear information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything which is being observed from the conditioned perspectives of the conditioned souls. They may come under different designations, MA, PhD, His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami says, permanent head damage. That the living being born in ignorance, doesn't know left from right, cannot feed themselves, cannot clothe themselves, receives some educations, ABC, 1, 2, 3, and later on gets certified by Harvard, by Princeton, by University of Johannesburg. And they become proud of their understanding, their knowledge. But what is this knowledge? a tiny dot of the expanse of material knowledge. So one becomes PhD in accounting, for example. So that's just one focus. But because the living being has been designated as a doctor, a master of this subject, it tends to act as earplugs to hear from higher authorities, spiritual authorities. But the science of God is then inviting all grades of men, learned, not learned, rich or poor, that if they come and they hear Srimad Bhagavatam, then whatever is blocking their original consciousness, whether it's pride from beauty, from learning, from good parentage, that becomes removed. So then the next topic is about the Manvantaras, that the universe has got different managers that are like taking shifts to make sure that everything is in order. Manvantare Ishanukata. And after that, it is talking about Mukti, Nirodho, and Ashraya. Liberation, how to get out of this material world. That is one subject that is really missing. We are being taught in the schools how to facilitate the body, how to enjoy the senses of the body. Therefore, karma to enjoy is primary, and practically everyone agrees on sense enjoyment. So let's find a way how we can live together and not stand in each other's way for enjoying our senses. And to effectively enjoy, one requires artha, economics, money, sweeter than honey, brighter than sunshine. For this lubricant of enjoyment, men are ready to risk their very lives. There are men under the ocean as we speak. There are men under the earth as we speak. There are men firing guns and cannons as we speak. Why are they doing all of these things? Well, I have to take care of myself, or I have to take care of my family. Basically, it's employment. They offer these services to get remuneration, but at the bottom of it is that to keep this body alive and to keep whatever is connected to this body also alive. So the education system is pushing towards economic viability for everyone, because we maintain ourselves, right? It is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is maintaining everyone. It is us. You don't agree? So, without hearing about the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the via medium, the lover of God, the devotee of God, then we are hearing that man is the center of all things. And so this culture that we are living in is infecting even the devotees. Because if you are to be thrown into a lake, you must get wet. So we're in this lake of a paradigm which assets individuals as the center of it all, and which teaches us to expand our circle of influence, our circle of exploitation, and in that way become famous and honored and distinct from our fellow men. The culture of devotion is talking about mukti, liberation, getting out of this material world, that this is not the place where it's at. There's another place. 3/4 creation of this whole cosmic manifestation. There, it's not a place of sukha, it's a place of ananda. ever-increasing bliss. But these tidings are not given enough room to be broadcast. Therefore, the devotees carry this responsibility to broadcast this knowledge so that people can aim for liberation. In today's verse, we are hearing about how the process of hearing was manifested. Different aspects have been described. And so today, that there was a desire of the sages to know. And what do the sages want to know? They want to know about the self. They want to solve the problem of life. Sanatana Goswami, meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he laments that I'm being glorified to be triple PhD, and I'm such a scholar, I know so many languages, I'm a pandit, but I don't know who I am. So he wants to know, Keami, who am I? So this question we've heard many times Srila Prabhupada speak. We are not this body, we're the soul. Jivera Sarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. We are the eternal servant of Krishna. But to be fixed in such consciousness is the actual tapasya of the living being, of the devotee, to stay in that identity. So the sages want to know about the self. Therefore, hearing has become facilitated by the Supreme Lord. Because people sometimes say, Prabhu, I have these eyes, I have these ears, I have these senses. I didn't create them. And they seem to want certain things. I'm just answering the call. Why you have to come and tell me something as natural as wanting to enjoy my senses is bad for me? What am I supposed to do? Everybody's doing low enjoyment. What about me? So Krishna is very liberal because he himself is the supreme enjoyer. Devamrita Maharaj tells a story. He bought Krishna book and the 3 volumes. One, there's a picture there of Radha and Krishna outside, and on the first page it's written, Krishna the supreme enjoyer. So he had a girlfriend at the time who came to the room, and she's noticing that he's changing. And so she's going through his things on the table and she sees the book. She opens the first page and she reads, Krishna, the supreme enjoyer. And she's like, my God. So she just couldn't understand, what? The supreme enjoyer? Since when? How is this Krishna the supreme enjoyer? So Krishna is interested in enjoyment. And because we are his part and parcel, no wonder we are interested in enjoyment. It comes from him. He has no other duty except to enjoy different loving dealings with his different loving associates, eternally so. And so the living being part and parcel of Krishna, also has this spirit. But Krishna then helps us how to enjoy. Illegal and legal enjoyment. There's a way to enjoy, and this enjoyment must be in cooperation with the Supreme Enjoyer. It must be sanctioned by him, and that enjoyment of the devotee is spread throughout this mature world by the pure devotees in Parampara. They have not come to just restrict us, to make us suffer, to make us grind our teeth. It's dry, empty, Hare Krishna life. Instead, they understand you have these senses, and they want to be absorbed in some sense objects. And here are the sense objects for you to absorb yourself in. The example of Ambarish Maharaj. How he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. Savai mana padara vindayo vachansi vaikunta gunano vanane. So it's a matter of engagement, a matter of absorption. But to come to this stage, one should hear about this potential for greater happiness, for Ananda. So what are our prospects in the mature world? Is that we can push, shove, kick, get the cap, pay whatever we need to pay, try to establish our small kingdom, get old and die. And then hopefully somebody will remember that so-and-so controls some material energy this way or the other. And then unfortunately had to give it up. Whereas what are the prospects spiritually? That this body is not who you are. What is demanding all this gratification is just a dress that has been imposed upon us. You, however, are the spark of divinity. You are an eternal being. This Ananda is your birthright. And if you use that which will leave you anyway, this body, in the service of the owner of this facility, then you become freed from the chains. Then you can enter a world where every step is a dance, every word is a song, every day is a festival, every meal is a feast. So the prospects are way different. But it is difficult for us to appreciate that when we have not become sufficiently purified, we have not heard enough. Therefore, Shinvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridanta Stoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Surit Satam Nasta Prayasa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, then Srimad Bhagavatam, because the words about Krishna, his name, his fame, his activities, qualities, are none different from Krishna. They are Krishna himself. No shortage. So Krishna, in the form of sound vibration, can cleanse the dirt in the heart. Basically, we're clinging to some hope that somehow or the other, if I arrange matter in this way or the other, if I arrange my economics, if I arrange my family life, if I move to a certain place, then, hoping against hope, we will tap into Ananda, our birthright. But Bhagavatam is clearing away. Give up this hope. Give up this hope. And hold on to the liberated souls, because they know what it is to be free from material conceptions and material illusions. So when we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, we associate directly with Krishna. Hearing about Krishna is not only for understanding, but it is also for transformation. Look at Srimati Rukmini Devi. She is raised in a palace as a princess, and she hears different people, sages who come to see her father. They are speaking about this Krishna. And having heard about Krishna, at some point she is completely convinced, attracted to Krishna. I want him as my husband. Regardless of the culture at the time, she writes a love letter and calls the priest that you should send this to Krishna. And she tells Krishna, "O Bhuvana Sundara, O beauty of the world, having heard about your fame, your qualities, which enter the ear and take over the heart, without shame, I have decided that I want you as my husband. I know you may think this girl is being forward, but if I don't get you, then better to die. I'm being promised to this Shishuppa, who's like a jackal. You are like a lion. Why should that which is meant for the lions be taken by jackals? You may be wondering how this may happen, but you should come if it pleases you, and you can kidnap me. In my family, there's a tradition before every wedding, because I've been promised to this Shishupal, and the day after tomorrow is the wedding. But a day before the wedding, there's a procession to the temple of Ambika, where the bride to be prays for the benedictions. So at that time, everyone will be relaxed. They will not be bringing any weapons, not ready for any fighting. At that time, you can come and you can kidnap me. But please make sure, don't hurt my relatives. Don't harm my relatives. And upon receiving this news, Krishna, hearing also of the love of Rukmini, had determination to have him as the husband, he acted. So by hearing about Krishna, then Krishna becomes established within our hearts. Once upon a time, some of us here or online may have never heard of Krishna. Certainly in my life, 20 years, I had never heard of Krishna. In fact, there was some program on television, I think it was Mahabharat. South Africa, they've got this SABC 3. And in the afternoons on Sunday, they tried to appease all the faith groups. And so I guess they were appeasing the Hindus, and this Mahabharat was playing. But as you know, that type of Bollywood movies, they can be really ridiculous in one sense. All these men, it's just zooming in, zooming out, and every time the channel fell on that, I just like, what is this? I just changed the channel. Later when I realized, this was Mahabharat, all the warriors in gold and shiny armor, and the weapons, how they shoot, and there's arrows everywhere. I just thought, ridiculous. But at some point, and this is the point, the Vaishnava is the most merciful, because the Vaishnava is conversing on behalf of Krishna. By the mercy of the Vaishnava, we can hear about Krishna. They come into our lives when we are completely involved, entangled, or sometimes thinking, how happy can life be? And they introduce us to Krishna by speaking about Krishna. And from the Vaishnava, such as Srila Prabhupada, consider, he left Vrindavan in ripe old age. He is a pure devotee of the Lord, a lover of the Lord. All who speak about Srila Prabhupada, if you read the book of, is it Mula Prakriti Mataji? His absorption in Harinam, always chanting the name, his absorption and obsession about the mission of his guru, that he should go and preach in the West. His love for Chaitanya Charitamrita Srimad Bhagavatam, he brought that over. And one person, by the power of his speaking, because the people, the devotees, some of which are here, by hearing Srila Prabhupada, then Krishna, who is none different from the glories of his activities and pastime from his name, became established in their hearts. And accepting Krishna in the form of the sound vibration, they gave up other conceptions and dedicated themselves in this mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. So this hearing, it can never be overstated, its importance. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the exemplar of a perfected soul through hearing is Pariksit Maharaj. He's given up everything and he has inquired to Shukadev Goswami, what is it that one should hear, remember, chant, especially one who's about to die? Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that is all of us. That is all of us. He is told within 7 days he will die, and as far as I remember, Monday to Sunday, 7 days. And these days with social media, aren't we hearing every day almost of Vaishnavas leaving their body? So one should meditate that we are at the doorstep of death and should take this example of Pariksit Maharaj. With rapt attention, he gave up everything and went to hear about Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, his hearing led to him discarding the bodily concept of life. By the time Takshaka came to bite him, end his life, he had already become disconnected with the identity of this physical body. He was situated in the self. So that is possible for all of us. We have to simply maintain the faith and be chaste, especially to hear from Srila Prabhupada, who has come for us. He has digested this message and given these purports. Why is he having hardly any sleep overnight translating? So that you and I can hear. Sanskrit is there, we could hear it, but how to understand the meaning? So it gives us a great responsibility that somehow or the other we have to extend this mercy to the rest of the world. We have to try and create opportunities, facilities for the people of the world to hear. Otherwise it is said in the Bhagavatam, Anato pasamam sakshat, bhakti yoga madokshaji, lokasya janata vidvans chakre satota samhita. That the masses of the world, they are unaware that all these so-called sufferings and happiness, the miseries of this world are superfluous to them. Meaning, it's not really crystal clear that we are the soul embodied in this temporary case. And so everyone takes it very seriously, this one page of this eternal book of the soul. And everyone invests everything and tries to encourage everyone to gather around this illusory identity. It will be gone just now. So it is said that because of this, Srila Vyasadeva has compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in the height of his own spiritual maturity, so that he can introduce Bhakti Yogam Adokshaja, the process of devotion, connection to Adokshaja, Krishna who is beyond the range of material sense perception. We are trapped in this universe, and whatever we can perceive is very limited. So how are we to perceive that which is beyond the range of our senses? We have to hear from those who are liberated, who are beyond the imprisonment, about the person who is beyond this material world. Therefore, this hearing process is most important. And to hear from the right sources. For us, it's very clear whom we should hear from thoroughly. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is said of hearers in Bhagavad Mahatmya, there's superior and inferior types of hearers. So this is where we do some self-diagnosis. Note, though, that the mind likes to overestimate our own capabilities. It said, for superior, chatak, hearing like the chatak. The chatak bird is famous for drinking water that falls directly from the cloud. That it'd rather die than drink water from any ground. So a chatak type of hearer is hanging on to every word of the speaker and is trying to catch it as it leaves the speaker's mouth. Of course, speaker has to be qualified. Hare Krishna. So chatak is there. Then it is said of the Hamsa. The Hamsa is famous for being able to separate from a mixture of milk and water. It can drink only the milk. So such a hearer, whatever is coming through, they are simply interested in the essence of life, in the essence of the message. They're picking up the Krishna consciousness. Whatever is not, they don't mind. It could be anyone, but they are simply there for the nectar. Then the parrot type of hearer, they can repeat as they have heard from their authorities. And so it means they are hearing simply to be able to repeat exactly what they've heard. And then it is said of the fish with his big eyes is fixed, looking at the speaker, trying to take whatever is coming from the speaker without even blinking. I don't know if you've ever seen fish, it looks strange sometimes. So it is like that when we find ourselves like, just like yesterday, His Holiness Radhanath Swami was sitting here speaking. And how much transfixed we were, that any movement, any gesture is conveying many messages. Therefore, like fish, I was saying, devotees. So hearing, important. So of the inferior hearer, so there we can check if we are in that superior type of hearing. If not, we can all aspire. The inferior hearers are mentioned to be the wolf hearer. So the wolf, by his howling, he scares so many other animals and also people. And so the wolf hearer is simply hearing for the sake of broadcasting things that he himself is not bothered to follow. So he's hearing, but not interested actually in the subject matter for application. Just so that I can go and repeat it somewhere. Sometimes we do that. We're supposed to have a conversation with devotees, but each one is just trying to download whatever we've heard somewhere. We don't really hear what the other devotee is saying to really take it in and digest it. But this is also wonderful. We must hear. Then there's something called hearing like the Burunda bird. Sounded like Burundi. There's a country in Africa called Burundi. There's also hearing like the bull. And finally, those are the four. The bull is said, he has no discrimination. He eats these types of leaves, he eats that type of sweet cake, whatever you put before him. So when we go and hear without discriminating who is speaking, and then that hearing can actually become an infection. So we should hear from the right sources. And when we hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, then Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becomes established within our hearts. And all that dirt, all that is inauspicious, it is said, is almost completely destroyed by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why we see that when Gadadhar Pandit was doubting whether Pundarik Vidyanidhi was actually a Vaishnava, he was told, there's this amazing Paramahansa Vaishnava, you have to go meet him. Mukunda took him there. So when he got there, as all of us, we try to understand things by what we see. He looked around, this place is like some plush spot. This Vaishnava is sitting on like cushions, and he's got umbrella over him, he's being fanned, he's got luxurious earrings, he's chewing on betel nut, he has forceps that he drinks from, forceps, and he's chewing and spitting, and it just does not look like, what we've been told, the cutout of the Vaishnava. And so he thought, no, this is not a Vaishnava. And this is a very grave mistake that we are susceptible to, because we rely on our vision. Whereas this path is called Shruta Ikshita Pata. We see through hearing. So when Mukunda understood that Radha has this doubt about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, then he recited Bhagavatam. Aho Bhakyam Stana Kalakutam, Jigam Sayapayat Apasat, Lebedatrim Uchinban. Kam Vadailam Sharanam Vrajema. Who could be more merciful than Krishna, who accepted Putana, a witch who came with the intention to kill him, who smeared poison on her breast so that Krishna can suck her breast and be killed. I don't know if anyone has ever plotted to kill Krishna. It's really bizarre. It's really the height of insanity, like you want to kill God. But there was her motive. But Krishna accepted the mood that she came with. Oh, she's coming as a mother. She wants to breastfeed me. Oh, okay. He accepted. Jai took the milk. Although Acharyas explained, he had his eyes closed, different commentaries that he's wondering, how is this witch coming here as my mother? What has she done previously to deserve this situation? Or Krishna is also thinking, again I have to do something which is irreligious. I have to kill a woman. I just started my pastimes. Acharyas say that he's also closing his eyes, he's anticipating, yuck, witch milk. It's probably not going to taste so good. So Krishna accepted her mood. He's Bhava Graha Janad. So this mood is what we have to pick up from the higher Vaishnavas. This mood simply to want to please Krishna, to please the devotees. If we're coming in that mood to try and please, whatever service we're trying to do will bear fruit, if the motive is to please. So Krishna took the milk, took her life. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this sloka, immediately his kava as a materialist, the outward look, he lost his mind. He fell into deep, deep ecstatic love of Krishna, kicking everything, rolling on the ground, foaming at the mouth, crying, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore revealing his actual position. of being a lover of God. So there we are learning to hear first before we judge with what we see, and not to make the mistake of undermining Vaishnavas or neglecting them based on what we are seeing externally. Because this ball of flesh is very limited. It cannot understand. Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Nabujaya. We cannot understand the Vaishnava in these ways. But when we hear from the Vaishnava, then we can understand this person has accepted Krishna. Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam is all we're looking for. Someone who's accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes the best person for us. I mean, therefore, devotees sometimes we're really like suckers for anyone. We meet people on the streets. The person was just performing sinful activities before our eyes. But if they're willing to come closer and we say, can you say Hare Krishna? And they say Hare Krishna. Oh, we are the best person. We embrace him. You want to come with us? Do you want to live with us? We'll feed you, we'll clothe you, don't worry. Some of the devotees here came under these conditions. Most of us. Because they accept Krishna. Even without really knowing, they accept repeating his name. So this is what we have to look at. Then when we see that everyone around us has accepted this Krishna, who has mesmerized ourselves, then they are the best of all human beings. And therefore we treat each and every devotee as the precious part and parcel of Krishna that they are. In this way we become happy in the association of devotees. We become protected by that association. And then we are able to hear from each other. Because what is the value of having association of devotees, but we cannot hear Krishna Katha from each other? So we pray to the previous acharyas, we pray to Srila Prabhupada and to assist us to cultivate very strong hearing. And not that only we are only hearing for the sake of accumulating knowledge that we can beat each other over the head with, but that we become transformed. Yesterday we were hearing about the character of the Vaishnava, the qualities of a devotee. How attractive is that? Imagine Shivananda Sena, he's ecstatic for expending all resources to bring the devotees to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is his joy. Externally he's struggling, taking up all sorts of headaches. But when we think, imagine I had that consciousness. Yeah, it's attractive. And when we have that, that attracts the Supreme Lord. Therefore Mahaprabhu gave full mercy to him and his family. So we are hoping to be transformed, to pick up these qualities. And that is what the sages wanted. They wanted to use their power of hearing to hear about the self, the Supreme Self, so that they can awaken that divine consciousness which will be pleasing to Krishna, which will attract Krishna. So the world is in need of that, and we have this sweet and sour responsibility. May you please accept this sweet and sour sabji of spreading Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki Gaur Premanande.